It is Sunday here at Cities 92.9. I'm David Paul Blumenshine. This is the David Paul Blumenshine birthday show.
And with that, I do have a little surprise planned.
Uh-oh. Right over there, as Scott Robbins says, is our Kat Peterson, who's in studio today with us. Kat, you can give me a little more volume in the ear because I seem not to be able to hear myself talk, which is disconcerting when I do that. But hey, yes, thank you, Kat. It is my birthday today, and we have a birthday show planned.
Yes, it's going to be super exciting, and make sure to send DPB some love on our text line. It's 309-807-1600.
And with that, I want to send some love out to some of my friends and family. I have, it's amazing when you tune into how many people have birthdays on the same day as you do, and it's, you know, they become your birthday buddies, right? And there's one of my friends is Dustin Cassidy, who just went through a very crazy time in his life. He was stricken by the coronavirus and ended up in the hospital for an extended stay. However, he is back. I saw pictures of him this morning. I know he's been out reconditioning himself, getting back up to speed. So shout out to my friend Dustin on his birthday. Mark Weaver, another friend. And we'll continue to mention some of my friends who are out there. I don't know if they're listening or not, but if you're listening and you know who they are, you contact them and let them know that I mentioned them on the air here today. So it is Sunday, and one of the things that I like to bring to the point immediately today, in light of everything that has transpired in the last week, since we were on the air for Back to Blue Sunday last week, it kind of inspired me to understand what we are facing in today's times. And I know that there are many people out there bloviating. I love that word. I think I got that from Bill O'Reilly's show back in the day. But bloviating about all the things we can and can't do in this great country that we live in, an exceptional country. And one of the things that I know we can do is to take some action. And there's action steps for everything that lies ahead of us. For me, I believe those action steps come from my faith. And it actually encourages me to step forward, to get out ahead of this thing, you know, to know that God goes before us in all things. That's what my faith teaches me. That's what our founding fathers also were aware of when they set forth this document called the Declaration of Independence. And how that's manifested itself over time to be where we're at. This gets back to what I was saying about bloviating. We have a lot of people asking, how did we get to where we're at? And what is next? Well, I'm hoping to answer that here today on today's show. We got about 2 hours, but we've got a lot to get to. But
the birthday show, and I have to squeeze this in because it's a surprise. Ready?
Ready,
You've
Kat.
been voted number one at everything. No matter what you do, you seem to be number one. I just wanted to wish you a happy birthday. A happy birthday. Happy birthday. A happy birthday to you. A happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. A happy birthday. Happy birthday. A happy birthday to you.
Wow, that's a surprise. My favorite president singing happy birthday on the DPB show.
Speaking of actionable people and actionable things, that was Donald J. Trump singing happy birthday to DPB.
My favorite president. Well, thank you, Kat. That was a welcome surprise. But I want to kind of go back to what we were saying, because this whole culture that we're living in today is, I think it finds many of us crying out, you know, wondering what's next. And that's what I hope to be able to cover today. You know, my wife the other day had asked me, she goes, when did this decline really start to happen? Was it like 20, 30 years ago? And I said, no, I believe it was in 1973. In 1973, if you're not aware, and I know many of you are, was when Roe v. Wade took place. And we sanctioned the destruction of children in the womb. We literally started harvesting and trafficking in human beings. That is where I believe our decline. Now, there are a lot of those on the other side of the aisle that would say that's not when it took place. They'd actually say our best days are happening right now. And that's not true, because we continue to not uphold the Constitution, I believe, when we allow the harvesting of humans in the womb. I think it is what has led to the downfall of our culture. I know that was pointed out over and over by Pope John Paul II in his encyclicals, especially the one of Theology of the Body. Here we are, we have taken full reign to start separating what God has created to make it a personal choice, a health issue, a women's health issue. And I think as long as we continue to go down that road, and I know that's been brought to the forefront here in last week with the decision made by the Supreme Court, which was not a decision to ban abortion in Texas, which is what a lot of people would like to believe that that's what was decided. No, it was the heartbeat bill, basically stating if a heartbeat is detected, obviously at that point, that is a human being. And therefore, anything contrary to allowing that human to grow within their mother's womb, which is, I'm pretty certain to this, that most people, I know that in recent years there have been people born outside of the womb, which is another reach and grab.
Just even further solidifies the argument that it's not a women's health issue. If a baby can grow outside of the womb in, say like science or circumstances, then it just proves that a baby is a baby despite being in the womb acts as a housing unit.
Yes. And it's a good point. Obviously I believe that, and I don't know how successful these births have been and how many children are actually in existence that were able to be developed outside of a womb. Longitudinal studies have not been done. Obviously, this is new science, and we continue to press the envelope in everything, which brings us back to this 1973 decision, I think, that, where do we go from here? If we're going to continue to allow the dehumanizing, the basic life liberty and the pursuit of happiness, which should extend to all of us, right? Because there's no one here on this earth that at one point wasn't in that position. Whether it's born in the womb or outside of the womb, you developed as a human being.
You are a former fetus.
You are a former, yes.
I need a shirt that says that.
I am a former fetus. And I think that's a big part of what we are facing today. I think that the decline, as Pope John Paul II used to point out, the decline in humanity, and so did Mother Teresa, who is now Saint Teresa, she pointed this out, that we can't be a humane society. We cannot truly exist with one another as long as we know that there is a big portion of the population that believes that that's up for grabs. That at any time we can end life, whether that's in the womb or whether that's at the later stages of life.
See, and if you talk to anybody, nobody's going to say, oh, that's not a traumatic thing. I think even the crazy lefties will say, abortion is something that's super traumatic, not only on women, but also men. And I think that when it's traumatic like that, the government does have to step in and overturn Roe v. Wade in order to not have that trauma on people anymore. Nobody says abortion is good, and this is Texas's way of saying, hey, people are traumatized by this. Let's regulate it and make sure human beings aren't traumatized by abortion anymore.
And I think that's we're seeing that. Texas was not the first state. There are other states that have done it. Iowa has a similar legislation. Louisiana has similar legislation. I think Alabama does. I mean, this is just the newest shiny object that the left can basically grab a hold of and start creating fodder. And it also takes attention away from all the other tragedies and human catastrophes that are going on around the world. We know we just came through the Afghan crisis, which it's not a crisis any longer if you listen to the White House, because they believe that this was accomplished, deal done, 20 years, we're out of there. The human fallout and the human toil after that event, we're clear of it. Now it's time to pivot back to respecting our military, which we always do here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. And if you're just joining us, this is Sunday, the David Paul Blumenshine Show, and it is my birthday today. So,
happy birthday!
And Kat has already presented me with my a birthday gift. It's actually a fancy mug, and we might put a picture of myself holding this fancy mug. I'm opening it, as you can tell. You're probably hearing that noise in the background. And hey, if you're out there and you'd like to basically let us know how you feel about anything we talk about here at Cities 92.9, you can always reach us on the text line at 309-807-1600, or you can call the studio line at 309-451-9299. But I'm holding that mug, and that mug says Liberal Tears on it, so I look forward to enjoying my hot coffee in the morning in my new glass mug where I can actually see Liberal Tears light up. But when we look at the life issue, and that's kind of where we're at, and I know that Jen Psaki had a lot to say about that last week in some of her press conferences in regards to this decision made by the Supreme Court in Texas with the heartbeat bill. And we look at the other things happening, and we know that they've pivoted back to the coronavirus, and now we're hearing whisperings of the new variant, which is going to be ongoing forever until we decide unequivocally that there aren't just two arguments, as our friends over, I'm sorry, I call them friends, as that station over on the campus put out an article with the union president here in town stating that basically that masking and vaccine are the only solution. Well, I don't believe that's true. I believe that there is plenty of research out there that says there's multiple therapies for it. Our former president, I guess I still call him the president, President Trump, recovered utilizing one of those therapies, and so have thousands of other people. But yet we're in denial about that. Just like we're in the denial about the fact that people who have been infected with the coronavirus and have survived, which it would be about 99.7% of them. And yes, I am concerned about the 0.3%. That's where this discussion leads us. See, if that 0.3% actually had alternative therapies like ivermectin, which seems to be in the news today, and hydroxychloroquine, which is something President Trump talked about during his presidency, during this health situation that we find ourselves in. If we're going to continue deniable plausibility about what else exists and tunnel vision down to two things, saying this is it's mask and vax, and everybody should get on board and everybody should be part of it, it gets us back to the issue of life. And it really kind of circles around itself when you look at these issues. And I know that if you're out there, you're saying, David Paul, where are you going with this? Well, we continue to try to find solutions outside of the only source. And that's God. See, people are resources. Scientists are resources. People in our communities are resources. Our friends, our family are resources. Our school systems are supposed to be resources. All of these different organizations are supposed to stand as resources to the source. See, I'm a firm believer that we can continue to beat the pulpit, we continue to hammer, but it doesn't do anything unless we realize that outside of God, the shit. And I know my friend Daley, who is running for governor of Illinois, talks about, yep, that's right, there's Kat.
Governor Darren Bailey.
That's right. He says this often, that it's standing for you in 2022. And why does he bring that up? And I think it's important to realize he brings that up because here we have a football stadium, and I know it's football season now, and we've seen that college football got kicked off, and the stands were packed with anti-mask wearing people. And I'm sure there were a few mask wearers in the crowd, but for the most part, it looked like everything went well for the second Saturday of football season. So we see these stadiums are filled. People are eating popcorn, and they're usually watching 22 guys on the field, 11 on offense, 11 on defense. And that's what I believe is analogous with the way we see life manifest itself right now. 22,000 people eating popcorn, watching 22 people participate. And that can flow over into politics. It can flow over into anything. But we're going to continue that when we come back. We do appreciate you joining us here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. The birthday salutations are already coming in. Thank you. I'm David Paul Blumenshine here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. It is my birthday Sunday, and we are just going to continue to celebrate life. And that's what we led off our show with today. That, you know, the biggest discussion going on right now last week was about life in the womb and the heartbeat bill out of Texas and the Supreme Court's decision to uphold that legislation. No, it did not ban abortion in the state of Texas, contrary to what a lot of the people on the left would like us to believe. That's not where this is going. However, where it is going is getting back to what we were talking about as we led into break, which is when you look at COVID and you look at abortion and you look at the harvesting of human beings and you look at the way that we're responding to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it is inconsistent with the Constitution. And that is the law. And that's what we stand on. And when we cannot stand, and this is getting back to my analogy of the football stadium, we have 22,000 people sitting in the stands watching 22 players on the field. And when they're sitting there eating their popcorn and saying, gosh, I really wish they would run a different play, or gosh, I wish they would perform better, it's because we are not willing. We're doing something very passive. It's not action-oriented, and it does take action in order to move this thing. That's what I pointed out about Governor Bailey and his pursuit of the governor's office, knowing that he has to stand for you in 2022. And if you're just joining us, you always know that I'm here on Sundays with one of my favorite people in the world, Kat Peterson.
That's me. You know, and I like that analogy a lot. And I'm thinking in my head, okay, so when you're in the stands and you're watching the 22 people go at it on the football field, for me anyway, the whole time, all I can think is, wow, I would not be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to, do the football thing, and I'm kind of scared of it. And I think that's how our outlook on life has gotten. We're scared to actually live our lives. That's why we're so okay with abortion. That's why we're okay with the masking and the vaxxing. And we're so okay with it because we don't want to live anymore. Society doesn't want to live their life anymore. Live their life through Christ, through God, and actually serve and live a fulfilled life. They're scared of it. And I don't know if it's because of what the 22 people down there and you're spectating, what they're doing scares you. I don't know what it is.
Well, I believe part of it is we've gotten so comfortable being comfortable. And we don't want to go outside of our comfort zones. In fact, I wrote something down this morning that I thought I'd bring into it. We're looking for everything and everyone for a solution outside of ourselves. And that's a big part of that. That's, I think, is what we deal with in all aspects of our life. Is not to say, once again, we know that the source requires a resource. We covered that on the front part of the show, that without God, and I've said this on air many times, this was part of my campaign when I ran for state representative. Together with God's help, we can save Illinois. Outside of God's help, we cannot do anything for Illinois. Illinois is our home. And I shout out to my friend Darren Bailey for Governor Darren Bailey for mentioning our campaign slogan, those two runs at state representative for the 105th district, that Illinois is our home. And when somebody comes into your home, and when you think about, once again, tying this all together, the home of a child for a period of time is its mother's womb. You've invaded that home. It's no different than if you came into my home once my children are born and you wanted to cause harm to my children. Well, if Illinois is my home and you're wanting to cause harm to our children, whether that's in our classrooms, whether that's anywhere that our children are sports, extracurricular activities, We have to protect them. We have to be about that. And we're going to continue that discussion here on Birthday Sunday on Cities 92.9. It is my birthday Sunday here on the David Paul Blumenshine Show. Hey, we want you to participate and bring content to our show. Obviously, we have the detractors. We know who you are out there. We're very aware who you are. You constantly are showing up on the screen at 309-807-1600. Hey, we respectfully know that we live in the land of the free, the home of the brave. You're entitled to where you believe you're going to end up someday, which if I guess you don't believe in God, then or that there is anything beyond God, then, you know, you will die a death and the worms will eat you, I guess. I don't know what else there is. As for me and my household, we serve the Lord.
The Lord. Joshua,
right.
what I said, 24:19?
You're going to have to look that up, Kat. Hey, if you're just joining us today, and we so do appreciate you, when you tune in to Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, that we need you, obviously. What we were talking about before we went to break was that we've joined, or we are come to the point of football season, and we have many people sitting in the stands. 22 players are on the field. If we're going to truly push back against the craziness of this world, this, the whole attack on the womb, when it deals with abortion, this craziness of mandating vaccinations, masks, and totally doing away with good, sound science when it comes to other therapies, specifically those who have been infected with coronavirus are showing signs that they have a 17 times more likely to not come down with the Delta variant because of antibodies. But that's research being done all around the world. There's 15 different studies. In fact, I think I'll go ahead and post that again on our social media page, where you can find us at Cities 92.9, not on social media, but we're here in studio at 309-451-9299, or the text line is 309-807-1600. We did have a texter, Clay. Clay, we do appreciate you. He said that he is listening, so he must be streaming all the way from Naples, Florida, right?
Yep. We love you, Clay.
Well, special shout out to you, Clay, and thanks for texting in. But, once again, Kat, where we take this thing is that we need to be the source or the resource to the source and getting involved and making sure our voices are heard. And that's what I think is lacking.
So yesterday I had a lot of heat come after me because I had posted something about, the same people who are telling you that men don't have a say in the matter and that the people in Texas shouldn't have voted on this new heartbeat bill are the same people who say that men and women, there's no true definition to that gender and men can be women, and it's just kind of backwards logic to me. So I had a lot of people reach out to me, and I think about this a lot. I'm like, well, should I just stay quiet and mull over in my own beliefs and just don't say anything?
No.
And I was like, no. And actually I pressed a little harder, and she was like, well, straight white men are coming from a place of privilege. And I said, well, some gynecologists, they're straight white men, right? And I feel like they would even know more about the female anatomy than me, because they've gone to school, they've gotten medical degrees, they've gone to college for how many years to learn about the female anatomy. So I personally would listen to a gynecologist about the female anatomy, no matter what was between his legs or his sexual orientation.
That kind of makes sense, since he would be perceived as the expert.
Right. And these politicians, I think that they would know more about the law and the patterns of human beings. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, the trauma that women go through when they have an abortion, both physically and mentally. And politicians, they are in the business of people, right? And they're studying the patterns of people. And if they see that there's this trauma there, they're going to try to correct that with a piece of legislation. That's actually being a good politician, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why you're there. You're there to serve, obviously. And we know that there's been a great divide, and it gets back to that 1973. How did we start to go down the road since 1973, where it became, the law of the land that it was okay for a woman to abort, or to, I believe I'll just save that. I don't believe it's anything other than killing of a baby. And in there, like Mark Levin said, there, I said it.
There, I said it.
I said it,
Yeah, you have to.
He also says that these people that continue to buy into this illogical reasoning, and that's my friends that I have that are still somewhat left of where I think, which are becoming fewer and far between, because it gets back to that ability to have civil discourse. I'm not going to necessarily buy into it. I've been around now 58 years on this planet. And no, I just haven't been sitting back idly by in the stands eating my popcorn. I've dug in. I've gone in deep. I look for the best of the best information, resources. Once again, we can be a resource for the source. I believe that the information is there. I challenge people. Just don't stand on name calling. Just don't stand on your own tunnel vision that there's only one way to cure COVID or to handle life within the womb. There's many other action steps you can take. It gets back to personal responsibility, and personal responsibility should be extended to a life inside of the womb once at conception. That's what I believe. I don't need to necessarily hear about the heartbeat. I believe, hey, this is life. We all came from that origin. Even the person that's an atheist came from that origin. And you know what's really cool about that? Even God loves you as the atheist. He loves you just as much as he loves me.
Isn't that a concept?
That is a concept.
And I love it when they, come at me with that, abortion it's a women's health issue. And I'm just thinking to myself,
like Jen Psaki.
In order for you to make that argument, you had to have been a clump of cells,
yes.
In a female's health organ or whatever you think you were at that time.
Well, and to find out, and this is, I want to get to the Jen Psaki piece, but to find out that the research that was done on the different vaccines did utilize human stem cells. Now, I'm not saying for those that are starting to screech, if there are any out there anymore, I think we've kind of scared a lot of those people away, except for the few that like to be on our Facebook page. And you can find us on Facebook here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal. You can also stream us. Go out and get the app. You can listen to
Twitter,
Cities,
Instagram, we've got it all.
We've got it all. We're on social media. But so the stem cell, the stem cell research that was done with human stem cells did lead to the vaccinations. Now, human stem cells are not in the vaccinations. I want to make sure we're clear on that. However, if the origin of the vaccine started with research done by human beings, I'm not interested. That's my personal take on it. That's why I am a conscientious objector to any of the vaccinations, because they all originated with the use of research done with human stem cells. Now, this gets back to the craziness of COVID, that here we are talking about abortion, and we're talking about stem cell research that led to the vaccination, which gets back to the whole societal issues at hand. Where are we as a country? Have we truly repented? Have we gone back to the source, which is God? Have we really reached out to the resources? Or are we just pushing an initiative? And I'm pretty certain, based on what I'm seeing out there, whether it's in public education, whether it's in corporate America, whether it's even anywhere that we go, that the way that people, the humanity of all issues, has been thrown to the side. I do believe that we are dealing with unprecedented times, that we are seeing things that we have never seen before. And that's getting back to 1973, when we got on the slippery slope, ever since we opened up the harvesting of human beings out of the womb. And that is to me, unconscionable. I don't even know how we can continue.
When does it start to where research becomes more important than actual human life? And I think we're going to start seeing more and more of that, and that's what has happened. Planned Parenthood, the politicians who are corrupted by Planned Parenthood and all of these big pharma companies where they do the research on fetuses, on babies, the decision between what's right and research becomes clouded. And I feel like in the name of research, you're gonna kill babies, and you're gonna look at babies, and where does the line end?
And I get it. I know they've had great strides that they've reached with therapies for Parkinson's, utilizing non-human stem cells, and I'm okay with that. However, when it comes to human stem cells now, and when you get into Parkinson, that leads us into a whole nother discussion, because I do believe that what we are seeing in America right now is such a surge in mental health. And I believe a lot of it, like you said, the trauma experienced by a woman, by a man who know that they procreated and no longer they have made a decision to end the life of a human being.
And not a lot of these places, at least the few women that I know that actually went out and had the procedure done and that have confided me in that, they say that they're not there to discourage you. They'll give you the information and all of that. And I just, in the back of my head, I'm just thinking, if they're not discouraging you, is it because they want to further this research? And is it being done in the name of big pharma, or, so that way they can still get more of this research that they want and more of these medications that they can push on people?
It is all, like we talk about here at Cities 92.9, the News and Talk of Bloomington Normal, it is all cyclical. It is all interwoven. It's all connected. It's interrelated. That what we're talking about in big pharma, corporate America, this whole essence to push the envelope to populate the country, the state, the local communities, that's what we're talking about when we're dealing with abortion.
You know how traumatic it is. So why would you not be discouraging people from getting the abortion?
Well, and
I'm not saying not everybody, doesn't discourage, but from the few people that I've talked to who went through Planned Parenthood specifically, they said that they're not in the game of discouraging.
Yes, there is a mental health crisis, and I think it all is rooted in the origin of life and how we treat one another and how we walk through our communities. And we're seeing that, according to this new candidate for McLean County Sheriff, he believes a mental health crisis when it comes to law enforcement is, going exponential. How are we going to deal with that going forward? If the mental health crisis that currently exists, and I believe it's systemic, when we talk about systemic illnesses or systemic problems, that's one of them.
This is systemic. Abortion is the cause to systemic mental illness because we can't grapple with the decision that was made to take human life.
Well, and I think there's a plethora of different arguments, and we're going to cover those when we come back. Here at Cities 92.9, we've got a whole lot to talk about here on my birthday Sunday. It is Sunday. Actually, we're calling it my birthday Sunday here at Cities 92.9, the News and Talk of Bloomington Normal. And you just heard a promo for Chandler and Swan. And today, I just want to make sure I'm acknowledging all the other birthdays that I'm aware of. I started out the show by talking about my friend Dustin Cassidy. Dustin, if you're listening, or if somebody knows Dustin and you're listening, call out and tell Dustin you heard his name on the radio at Cities 92.9. I've got Davy Swan. Davy Swan's birthday is today, so that is our own Davy Swan at the Chandler and Swan show that you can find here at Cities 92.9 on Sunday mornings, right? Mm-hmm. It's pretty early.
Yeah.
I think they're. Are you sure if they're 5 a.m. and they go back on at 7? I think.
Yes.
We know this programming here, as I'm passing it off to Kat Peterson. For those of you that are with us on any given Sunday, you know that Kat is kind enough to come here on Sundays and join me on the David Paul Blumenshine show. But you can find Kat too during the week at Scott Robbins, 6 to 9 a.m. on the morning show, Monday through Friday.
Yep. So Chandler and Swan, tune in at 7 a.m. every Sunday morning.
Okay.
And then it goes back on at 5 p.m.
See, there you go. See, I got it reversed again. You can tell that my mind, it's like a steel trap, right? I reverse everything. But hey, another birthday's out there. My friend Jimmy Mapugay, he has the September 5th birthday. Nick Adams, boy, he's a success story. He came from Australia, and he's a Fox News contributor. He happens to be a friend of mine. He actually, my wife wished him a happy birthday, and he sent a message back. So, the Nick Adams.
What?
From Fox News, who came here.
You're friends with Nick Adams.
I'm friends with Nick Adams.
All right.
I got a few of his books. The Green Card.
I knew you were a local celebrity, oot and all, but I didn't know you knew Nick Adams.
Okay, well, so Nick Adams, just a little trivia here. Nick Adams was basically got his start here in McLean County. The McLean County chairperson for the Republican Party, the GOP, invited Nick to come and speak at the picnic that we just took part in last Sunday, where Darren Bailey was speaking. Nick Adams has actually come to that picnic and spoke. He brought some of his books. That's where I first got to know Nick Adams, and instantly there was a connection between Nick and my wife, because my wife's an author, Nick's an author. Nick came here, The Green Card Warrior. If you haven't gotten the book, there's a plug for it. Great book, especially in light of everything going on with immigration, refugees, and all the talk around that. His plight, just to get through the process, cost him $50,000 to become a citizen. That's not the way it's supposed to be. Our immigration process needs to be transformed and restored, and it can be done like our former president used to say. He could get it done in a day if he could get people to take place in it. But we got Nick Adams, Mark Weaver, just trying to, my friend Nancy, who's one of my long-standing Albright, Krimmer, it's her birthday today too. So if anybody knows Nancy, give her a shout out. My friend Ronnie Jones, the Ronnie Jones. You can always catch Ronnie around town singing. And my sister-in-law's stepdad, John Hort, but he's all the way down in Florida. He might be listening to us since Clay is, right? Mm-hmm. But I just want to throw out some birthday greetings to some of those friends.
And shout out to your parents, DPV, for giving birth to you, Sally and
Jerry. Yeah, Mom and Dad, I know they're listening. I can always count on at least 2 people listening to my show on Sundays. My mom and dad, thank you for dinner last night. It was awesome. My mom did an amazing job. She put together a spread, had a great birthday dinner, got to sit and watch a little college football with my dad, which gets us back to our discussion about watching as a spectator versus actually playing. And what we need to move forward in this country is more players and less spectators. In fact, I think that, and it looks like we've got it, I want to get back to the piece on Jen Psaki, because we were talking about the preservation of life and how precious life is, and we all started out from the same origin. None of us are here without starting out there. But go ahead, Kat.
Why does the president support abortion when his own Catholic faith teaches abortion is morally wrong?
He believes that it's a woman's right, it's a woman's body, and it's her choice.
Why does the president, who does he believe then should look out for the unborn child?
He believes that it's up to a woman to make those decisions, and up to a woman to make those decisions with her doctor. I know you've never faced those choices, nor have you ever been pregnant, but for women out there who have faced those choices, this is an incredibly difficult thing. The president believes their rights should be respected. Go ahead. I think we got to move on.
I'm gonna deal with that. We're gonna take that and unpack it a little bit when we come back here at Cities 92.9. It's my birthday Sunday here at the David Paul Blumenshine Show. I'm David Paul Blumenshine, and you can always help us out by bringing us some content for the show, because we want to hear what your opinions are, how you feel about the issues we're talking about. You can do that by either calling in at 309-451-9299 or texting us on our text line at 309-807-1600. You can always join us via live stream. You can do that by downloading our app or even just doing a simple DuckDuckGo search. I avoided that other search. I'm not a big believer in it. Or you can, there's just multiple ways. You can go to multiple social media platforms and find Cities 92.9. And we do it. Our show is always better when you guys participate in it. We do appreciate those who have already texted in. I do appreciate all my other birthday buddy friends who are celebrating birthdays today. We gave some shout outs. But before we kind of pivot into the next portion of the show, I want to make sure if you're just joining us, we talked about life and how precious it was and kind of systemically where we're at since 1973 and Roe v. Wade and what we've devolved into as society and how people have become very comfortable in their lives and therefore they're not willing to get involved, to be a participant, a player rather than a fan. And we need more people, as my friend Darren Bailey says, we need more people to stand up. Darren can stand up, but there's a whole lot of other people in the state of Illinois, close to 12 million people in the state of Illinois. We need everybody involved if we're going to truly fix what is broken. We're both morally bankrupt and fiscally bankrupt. You know, if you were listening to the news during the break, there were 2 different reports of multiple shootings. 6 dead, 3 dead. This isn't a common occurrence up in the land of the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois. This goes on all the time. You don't hear much about it from the mainstream media because, once again, it doesn't fit their narrative. But we had something similar to that happen this past week. We had a multiple shooting, and reports are coming out, and I am going to share more about that in the upcoming weeks. I do want to cover it because one of the people who died, this gentleman, was a custodian at District 87. He was in the school system. He was a very good human being. And right now, according to reports, he is the suspected shooter. That we haven't verified that yet, but there's many reports, many witnesses who are leading us to believe that. We're hearing it. That's what happens in a tight-knit community like Bloomington Normal. We do talk. We understand the human condition. And once again, what gets into people, like the accounts that we just heard. One gentleman that they were reporting from Fox News declared that he was on methamphetamines. Now, here's a guy who is able to report that he was on drugs, but yet had a gun. I don't know if it was an assault weapon or a handgun. How that manifests itself is really irrelevant. Guns in the hands of people who are mentally ill is not a good thing, you know?
No.
And how do we curb that from happening? You know, when we talk about it, and I do believe that there is a form of mental illness going on in the inner city of Chicago, that we have so many violent crimes. You know, once again, it's usually illegal guns are used. It's very rare that you see an NRA member committing a violent crime using a gun. So it's something we have to really tune into, because I think it is truly, when we talk about respecting life, it's all life, from womb to tomb. And that's something that if we're not going to at least put that back in the forefront, and I know there's many people, as you heard the Jen Psaki video where she declared that what would you know? You're not even a man. You don't know what it's like to be pregnant. Well, there's a lot of things, Jen, that I don't know what it's like to be, because I am a man. And yes, women to this point mostly are the ones who become pregnant and carry a child to life, right? Outside of the womb. Life inside the womb, life outside the womb. But the bigger issue with that little clip was this. The question had nothing to do with whether that man was able to be impregnated or not. What the question was, a direct question to a man who holds the highest office in the land here in the United States, President Biden. He professes to believe in a faith tradition that protects life in the womb. Why is it that he's backed away from his Catholic faith? Catholics have always been at the forefront of defending life at all stages, from conception till death. And now to find out that our president, you know, he has a faith in a belief in one thing, but yet he doesn't support that faith.
He's a follower, not a leader.
Well,
and that's what, and it goes back to the whole standing up issue. If you are a follower and not a leader and you don't want to stand up, then of course your belief systems are going to coincide and not match up.
And that's what I'm saying. I know this today, if you're out there listening to the Dave Paul Blumenshine show at Cities 92.9, this might be a little bit too deep for you, but you know what, folks? We don't have a lot of time. The decay, the moral decay, the fiscal decay, the overarching decay of humanity is manifesting itself right before our eyes. Now, once again, I'm a hopeful guy. You're not going to find me not out on the streets or on social media or anywhere without a smile, because I know what lies beyond death. And that's more life for me. Now, there are those of you that do not believe that. Hey, I appreciate it. I hope that works out for you. That's not the road that I'm taking. That's not the road that I'm traveling. And I'm going to encourage as many people as I can, as long as I can breathe, to respect life, to believe in a higher power, to believe in God, that I truly believe that for God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten Son to carry on the weight of our sins and to go to the cross so that I will be able to be in heaven enjoying eternal life one day. And that's what we believe. And I want that for everyone. And I do believe wholeheartedly that every one of those little children that was harvested out of their womb through abortion are in the glory, that glorious place of heaven with our Heavenly Father. I do believe that. I know that to be the case. Unfortunately, I posed this question to a panel one time when I was considering a run for United States Congress. Yes, there was a run before the state rep run. I threw my name in the hat for a seat that was vacated by Tim Johnson when he won a primary, and then it had to come down to drawing straws in the different counties to interview with the county chairs and the membership of the GOP. But I posed this question to the audience that day when I had an opportunity to speak. Who or how do we know that somebody, a child, that would have become the person that came up with the cure for cancer, who knows what could have been accomplished by that life that we harvested, that we aborted, that we ended? How do we know that there might not have been a true cure for so many other diseases? How do we know that the mind that would have come up with the ability to take care of COVID off the face of the earth? Because all of these things are possible. We are the resources. God is the source. He gives us the ability to do those things. And when we start taking ownership over what God has done, we're in trouble. Because how does that manifest itself walking it out? What have we done in the name of humanity, in the name of women's health, that possibly we'll never be able to recover from?
Well, and it also gets back to, the mental health and the overall mental health of society as a whole. We're no longer resources to each other. We're simply spectators looking down at all of the people making the decisions. And we are so zoned in, and we have this tunnel focus that nothing else matters.
Very few people making the decisions. That's the problem. We have, as I said in the earlier segment of the show, that we're looking for anything or anybody to take on the responsibility that we ourselves should be taking on. And I believe that's the case. Now, I also understand this when it comes to the mental health crisis out there in our land, and it manifests itself in so many different ways, especially on social media. If you want to see mental health exercise or mental illness exercise, go to social media. Yeah, there's a lot of good things out on social media. But I heard this morning, and my daughter Hannah's in studio with us. She's kind enough to come in and take part in sitting here and listening to her dad on his birthday. She's pulling the mic over.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Oh, there she is. Hannah's, she's plugged into her earphones, but she's here present with me, and it's so awesome to have your daughter. But when it comes to the mental condition or the mental health crisis that's out there, that's never going to improve until we start truly
looking around. Stop spectating. Look around and look at your neighbor, look at your friend. Reach out and serve and be a resource to the source.
And I know what I was going to say there before I acknowledged my daughter is Pastor Tim Farrell from the Tabernacle said it best this morning. We find ourselves in 3 stages of life. All of us. I don't care who you are. From the President of the United States on down to the guy that's taking care of serving you food at one of the local restaurants, or somebody that's working the late nights at a hospital, or whatever it might be.
A custodian.
It doesn't matter. And that's one of the things. I believe wholeheartedly that the person that's a custodian is just as worthy of respect and dignity as the President of the United States. But we find ourselves in 3 stages. We're either in a storm, we're coming out of a storm, or we're heading into one. And that's what life's about, because we don't know what lies beyond this day. And that's ever evident in happenings around Bloomington Normal and beyond. You know, here we are, we started last week off. No one was aware that there was going to be a gunman in North Normal, and life was taken, 3 lives that day, plus 3 people who were wounded. And that will forever change that community around there. Now, I am fascinated to find out, as I've gone out and done a little sampling on my own, it's not scientific, how many people were really aware of it. And it's fascinating to find out that very few people are tuned in to knowing what's happening, what is going on in the news cycle, because it's something that wasn't covered. Now, it was covered here at Cities 92.9, and some of our local media outlets were covering it, but really, people not even being aware of that, which gets back to this very thing that you just said. Stand up. Get out of your comfort zone. Look around. You could be the resource for another human being. How do you know that, myself included here, believe me, I see this every day. I'm constantly on the outlook for people who need to have life spoken into their daily grind. Because it's so important we can do that for each other. Why aren't we doing that for each other? Why have things become so divisive? Once again, I think a big part of it is because of this decision made back in 1973, where we chose to get onto a decline in society of disrespecting life. Now, I know there's a big push for us to respect and validate and celebrate all types of light, but that manifests itself in more identity politics, virtue signaling, which is, once again, I respect life. I don't need to get into all of the different divisions amongst people, because I don't believe that there is, multiple, thousands of different ways of life. We're people, the human race. That's the race that I celebrate, the human race. Mm-hmm. And we're all human. I don't care where a person finds themselves, even the gentleman that likes to text in and give Scott Robbins a hard time, or the one that was texting in earlier that wants to say, I'm an atheist. I don't believe in God. Okay, well, no argument here. You're allowed. That's what we protected by the First Right, or First Amendment, is First Right, First Amendment, is to be able to come on our venue here. We don't censor people here at Cities 92.9, nor do we try to play word salad with these very sensitive, critical issues that face us today. And I know if you're out there listening right now here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, you're probably saying, gosh, Dave, this is very heavy. Well, it is, because I hear these professional commentators, opinionators, like Hannity, like Beck, like Bongino, like Levin, like Shapiro, like Joe Pags on the weekends, even our very own Ty Smith here on the weekends, Steve Cease. I hear us all trying to get our head around how this should manifest itself. Well, it's pretty simple. I believe we need to start looking up more and repenting more and turning our ways back to God and away from this craziness that we've found ourselves in a cycle. Hey, we're going to cover more of that when we come back here at Cities 92.9. Yeah, here we go again. It's Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal and beyond. I'm David Paul Blumenshine. It is my birthday show today, and it might be a little heavy for you, and you might be saying, "Gosh, DPB, this is out there, man. This is really convicting me." And I felt compelled to come in today and deal with this, because one of the biggest issues discussed out there in the news cycle this week was this crazy well, the scenario, it's not, when I say crazy, you have a Supreme Court making a decision on a heartbeat bill in Texas. And then immediately
there's this crazy response.
That's what I meant by the crazy. The crazies came out, and they continue to come out. And I know that our very own Mark Levin here says, they're nuts. The liberals are nuts, and they are. They go on these things. They're so rabid. I've heard them called the rabid hate mob, and that's what they do. They go after these issues, and I think it's part of our responsibility here at Cities 92.9 to deflect this stuff, to stand up and to deal with it. And if we don't, then who will? Because that's part of the reason that we're on this slippery slope, that we have constantly the trajectory of where we're going in disrespecting life in all forms, in humanity of itself, that we see it manifested in so many parts of our life now, this constant vitriol amongst humanity that is competing for this space. But Kat, you've got something over there. You're looking at your phone.
Oh, yeah. Well, you had brought something up about the crazy response to this. It's not an anti-abortion law. It's just a piece of legislation that it has to do with the heartbeat. And, I had posted something about, the same people who are screeching about, men shouldn't have the decision or make decisions about women's bodies are the same people who don't even believe that there is such a word as men and women and that there's a difference between the two. Right? I mean, it just doesn't make sense, and there's no pattern, no reason to their logic. And this woman, she comes after me and she says, it's very different, but you are too ignorant to see that. But
that's the
I don't
the
think
beautiful
I'm
thing.
being ignorant because I'm
let me just
questioning.
put
It's curiosity.
that's right. Let me put this out there for you. Anytime people question, that's part of what makes us the nation we are, is the ability to question, to ask questions. Whether it's about the vaccines, about masking, about abortion, about any topic, nothing is settled.
They have this tunnel focus, and Dan Bongino, he talked about that ivermectin and how that's not just masking and vaxxing, and I'll say masking and jabbing, because it's not really a vaccine, because you have these booster shots. We don't call it the flu vaccine, do we? We call it a flu shot.
Yeah.
It's a therapeutic, and it's not necessarily a vaccine.
And yet we're not even far enough away from this thing, knowing that we had this warp speed whole push to come up with some type of vaccination. And yet we know that there is plenty of other therapies out there. And to the plausible deniability of accepting the fact that we have other therapies. The fact, and it is becoming a fact, that the research is done, that if you've been previously infected with COVID, that you have antibodies. And there's a certain protection that natural immunity provides over a person. Now, that's not necessarily true about somebody who's been vaccinated, because we're finding the reoccurrence. Now, I love when people say, well, unvaccinated people are dying at a higher rate. Well, that gets back into playing word salad and playing with the games. We got a caller real quick, Kat, or we probably shouldn't jump on that, because we're going to go to break here.
Yes.
And if we don't go to break, because after break, we've got a lot to talk about in regards to 9/11, the upcoming celebration of the 20th anniversary of the craziness that went on that day. So we'll be back here shortly. Thanks for joining us here on Cities 92. They can only push back so long, the government can, before the pushback from us becomes very prevalent. We're here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal, to push back against the tyranny that's going on not only at our statewide level, but at the national level. And it's becoming very apparent that people are seeking power beyond what the Constitution provides. And we have a big event coming up here on September 11th. In fact, we've got Representative Brad Hallbrook on the phone. Hey, Brad, are you there?
Yeah, David.
Hey, we appreciate you coming on today, and we do appreciate when you come in studio, but we know that wasn't possible. But I just let off that, here we have this remembrance celebration of 9/11, and you guys down in your representative districts are doing something pretty special. Tell us about that.
Right, so we've got Dinesh D'Souza coming in on Saturday, the 11th at 7 p.m. Actually, we have a dinner that starts at 5:30.
Okay, and so where will that event take place at?
Yeah, so there's a venue in Arthur, Illinois, called Penn Station, and it's right on the north of the downtown area in Arthur.
Okay, and so you have this dinner, then Dinesh will speak. Is there I'm sure there's a cost that someone, in order to get tickets, what do they do to participate in that event?
Yeah, the best place to do the ticket is just go to bradhalbrook.com/Dinesh.
Okay. So,
and that page will give you all the ticketing and sponsorship levels if you're interested in that.
So go ahead and repeat that once more so we can make sure that we get that information so we can put it out on our Cities 92.9 social media page.
Sure, bradhalbrook.com/Dinesh.
Dinesh, as in Dinesh D'Souza. So
correct.
That's a pretty big speaker for our southern central Illinois market. How did you come about landing Dinesh?
Just a friend of a friend that knew him, and I made the request, and we made a connection back early this spring, and he had a schedule that would accommodate, and he's coming in 6 days.
And what better way? I'm sure Dinesh, as if you're not aware of who Dinesh is, you definitely need to go out there and DuckDuckGo Dinesh and all of the things that he has done. You talk about a true patriot who is pushing the envelope on holding people accountable, not only on the federal level, but on the state level and the local level. Dinesh has so many insights. Brad, what sticks out more than anything else that Dinesh has actually done here in the not too distant past?
Well, he's been all over the Afghanistan issue. I listen to his podcast every day. He started a podcast back early this spring, and his knowledge base is so deep and so wide. Native from India, immigrated here in the late 70s, and just has a tremendous knowledge of all these world and international issues.
Well, and he also did, I've seen something on Netflix. He did the Trump card, right? Was one of his pieces that he did. I mean, he's done so many of those types of documentaries.
Right. He's got, I think, 60 books, 20 books he's written. I think there's about 6 documentaries that he's done.
And like I said, if you haven't seen some of his documentaries, you can go out and definitely do a search on that on the internet and see exactly what we're talking about, because this is probably one of the more high-profile figures coming to our local market, and it's in Arthur, Illinois, which is fairly close to our listening area. I know that especially in the western or the eastern and southern part of our listening area, they're within a half-hour drive of getting down to Arthur. And of course, here, if you're in Bloomington Normal and you'd like to take part in the dinner and hear Dinesh D'Souza, you're looking at probably about an hour and 15 minutes, but I guarantee you that would be well worth the drive. What are the cost of the tickets?
Yeah, so we have a meal, a ticket with a meal, a barbecued meal that will be catered in. That's $100, and then we have just a ticket without a meal is $50.
Okay, well, we're going to get that all up on our social media page and make sure that we're doing our best to promote it. Brad, we do have another little event going on here in town at the Corn Crib. The McLean County GOP is hosting an event, but that goes all day. That goes from 8 in the morning till, Kat, tell me you're the one that's on board with the...
Yeah, so actually I think it starts technically at 10 a.m. I mean, we're going to be out there probably 8 a.m. So if you want to come at 8 a.m., that's totally all right. But it's going to go until dusk when we end everything with fireworks.
But the nice thing about it is you can do both of the events, especially if you want to see Dinesh. And, Brad, I can't help, in light of everything going on internationally, everything going on here in the state of Illinois, and we love it when our state reps come on Cities 92 and inform us about kind of the latest and greatest of the craziness as they see in Springfield, in in session. And just recently, you guys were called back in session. That's the reason I said State Rep Brad Holbrook, because we really don't know where Brad Holbrook will be a state rep at this time. Do we have any more further clarification on the mapping?
Well, I think we do, and which what we were called back to Springfield on Tuesday for was to deal with yet an additional map or a different map. When the census data came out at the end of August, there was a huge disparity in these districts. The law will allow you to have population differences no more than 10%. And some of these districts vary 30%.
Well, it goes to show you. Now, you think this last map is going to be where we kind of settle in at, or do you think there's still going to be some tweaking of the maps?
Well, the Republicans and Moldov, which is a Mexican group, have sued, and that is ongoing litigation. So our folks think they have a really strong case, and so I don't know if what the maps that we approved or passed on Tuesday will be the thing or not. So I mean, it's going to be playing out in courts.
Well, and once again, this seems typical of running into an election year, that we have everything up in the air, where people don't even know where you should pull petitions for. If you're within a district, outside of a district, obviously it seems more chaotic and it seems more disruptive, especially, like you said, to those who have come here from Mexico, for those who are Hispanic, maybe from Guatemala, that have realized citizenship, are voting in some of their first elections, and yet they feel disenfranchised because it seems like they are truly trying to legislators pick their voters rather than voters pick their legislators.
Well, that's correct. And so, they've already had to push the primary off from mid-March to June 28th next year. Of course, November general election will be the normal date. But, yeah, they've had to adjust all these schedules. I mean, typically we would start getting petition signatures, on Tuesday. And now that's been pushed off till the 13th of January.
And I remember that because I went out there to do that in September, and it's a lot nicer during the fall season to get your signatures than it will be the hard, cold winter when you're out there going door to door and trying to gather the signatures that are needed in order to submit your candidacy packet to the Board of Elections. Hey, Brad, another thing that I always like to discuss with you when you come and join us here at Cities 92.9 is that current House resolution that you've put forth. How are you doing on that? Are you getting additional traction?
Yeah, so not so much. Last year the resolution was H.R. 101. We changed some of the language a little bit and filed it this spring. It's H.R. 102, and it's a resolution to create a new state under the U.S. Constitution, Article 4, Section 3. And with all the stuff that's kind of going on, I've not been really active of looking for co-sponsors or any of the rest of that. We've just been trying to navigate all of the issues that are surrounding the virus.
Well,
and so...
No, go ahead. Keep going. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say that there's two entities out there, New Illinois and Illinois Separation. They're the grassroots that's pushing, trying to build the grassroots effort to try to make this happen. The resolution is just going to be the resolution, and until we have the grassroots built to help push the resolution through the General Assembly, it would really be for naught. We did get a hearing on the bill or the resolution this spring, and it garnered a ton of support. But it's an uphill battle.
Well, in the activism that I see taking place, irregardless of where we end up on House Resolution 101 and your efforts to push this conversation, once again, to ask the question, can we separate from Chicago? Because we know that Chicago is a boondoggle. I mean, outside of everything morally that's going wrong up there, but the fiscal duress those people are in, I don't even know how you spin your way out of that. And both of us have a friend in Darren Bailey, and he's done an amazing job of igniting the base, of getting people involved and looking at these things. Hey, Brad, are you familiar? Somebody ran something by me just in the last couple weeks where the re-implementing the grand juries in different counties in order to move towards holding our elected officials countywide accountable for their actions, and then subsequently continuing to to prepare ourselves for the craziness of violating the Constitution of not only the state of Illinois but the federal Constitution.
Yeah, I didn't know that was happening. I know there is a tremendous interest in trying to figure out a way to hold elected officials more accountable than trying to beat them in an election every 2 or 4 years.
And part of that comes because you've always talked about ethics reform and the amount of corruption, the legal corruption. I guess I better phrase it as legal corruption, because it's amazing that you have to put an adjective in front of corruption, legal corruption, because they have created a means of being deceitful in a legal manner.
Mm-hmm.
How do we get beyond that?
Yeah, that's a good question. And there was recent action, I guess it was Tuesday, on the ethics bill that passed in May, and that was SB 539, and it was superficial at best. Republicans kind of stood up on the floor and kind of railed about how bad this ethics bill was, but everybody says, well, hey, we have to start somewhere. This is a good start, and we'll come back and revisit it. But the problem is, once they pass these kind of bills like this, or resolutions, they never come back and do anything. They just say, look, hey, we passed the reform. There's nothing more to see here. Move along.
And that's where we've got to become louder. And I'll tell you, when it comes to being louder, you're one of the voices that has really brought a lot of this to the forefront, and we do appreciate it. And once again, we want to make sure we're promoting your event. So that's September 11th, which is next Saturday, and it's taking place in Arthur, Illinois. And the dinner starts around 5:30, and you can go to our website at Cities 92.9, or not to our website, our social media page. We're going to post your event up there, Brad, for you.
Great.
Hey, we do appreciate you coming into and talking with us here, and we look forward to you coming back in studio.
Excellent. Talk to you soon, guys.
Hey, you take care, Brad. All right. Hey, we'll be back. My mic is running away from me here, and so is our show. It is what I like to call the David Paul Blumenshine birthday show. It is my birthday today, so thank you for all of our listeners who've either texted in or called in today to wish me a happy birthday, and especially on social media. Thank you. Just very grateful for all my friends, family, and all the salutations you've put forth. It is... it's humbling, and I just thank you from the bottom of my heart. As always, Kat Peterson is with me here in studio today, across the way, running the Christmas tree board.
Yes. I think we lost Butch Exton, but he wanted to promote the 9/11. It's the Firemen's Memorial. It's going to be out at Miller Park in Bloomington, and it's going to start at noon, like right at noon. The fire department will start. There's going to be a service for the honor the fallen, and then there's going to be a flyover. There's going to be the American Legion Honor Guard there as well. We do have a caller. I don't believe that this is Butch, but we'll see who it is.
Real quick, a little plug for Butch. Butch, thank you for always staying diligent about calling in to make sure that we're aware of what's going on for our veterans. And this event on September 11th, in remembrance and celebration of those people who laid it on the line, our first responders that day. And, our hearts and our thoughts go out to them, and especially in light of what has recently transpired in Afghanistan and still goes on today. It's a crisis over there right now as we speak. So our thoughts and prayers continue to go out with everybody that is involved with everything that deals with 9/11. Caller, are you there?
Yeah, hey, this is Bill.
Hey, how are you?
Hey, doing great. Happy birthday to you.
Oh, thank you, Bill.
And you and Kat are doing a great job.
Thank you, Bill. I appreciate that, and we appreciate you listening.
Bill, what's at the forefront of your mind today?
Well, you were talking about the corruption and the reform in Illinois. Problem is, you got a left-wing governor and you got a supermajority Democrats in the House and Senate who would just love to keep ramming through the left wing.
Oh.
Hello?
Oh. We lost you for a second. They want to ram through what? Say that again?
Oh, I think this is a different caller.
So we've got Butch. Are you on the line?
I am. Didn't mean to disturb you.
No, you're not disturbing. So we had Bill on the line. Bill, if you're still listening, you cut off. I think you're coming back in. But Butch, give a plug for what's happening this Saturday out at Miller Park.
Okay. First of all, we're gonna hopefully have an invocation by the fire department chaplain. Then a flyover is scheduled. It'll be either 1 to 4 planes. Don't know that for sure. Doug Reeves is my head pilot there. That's weather permitting, of course. Then the fire department will have a memorial. The police will do theirs. And then we'll do a 100-year memorial to the Tomb of the Unknown Soldiers. This is the 100-year anniversary of the tomb.
All right.
Are you hearing me okay?
Yeah, I am. There was a little feedback in there, but we've got you. Keep going.
Okay. I could turn my radio. Turn my radio off. Does that help?
Yeah, if you have your radio on, that'd be a good idea.
Okay, it's off now.
Okay.
Okay. After that, we're going to build the field cross. We'll plant the M1 with a bayonet and put the helmet on top, of course, and a pair of boots and a dog tags. After which, we will do a tribute to the 5 branches. We'll ask the military that is there to salute their branch. And so this ought to be done by Tom Button. And finally, we'll fire the three volleys, and then taps, and Roger Troxel will be the bagpiper. End of the program. Enough said.
That's
Happy
awesome.
birthday.
Hey, thank you, Butch, and we always do appreciate you calling in and keeping us informed of all things that are going on around the American Legion, and especially in light of what's upon us with 9/11. Hey, I think we've got Bill. Is Bill back on the line? We don't know if Bill's back on the line. I think Bill's back on. Bill, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Bill, sorry about that. We had Butch Ekstrom from the American Legion informing us about all things that are going on at Miller Park on Saturday the 11th. We're up against a break, but go ahead. You were saying, and I'm sorry, because you were talking about the corruption and how hard it is to navigate that.
Yeah, you got the supermajority of Democrats in the House and the Senate, and you got a left-wing governor. You're always going to have corruption.
And you know what, Bill? You couldn't said it any better. Hey, we appreciate everything that our listeners do. This is David Paul Blumenshine.
You guys have a good day.
Hey, you do the same, Bill. Thank you. We appreciate you joining us here on Sundays. And just remember this. The only way we're going to find a solution is if my people will humbly pray and turn back to me and stop sinning. Then I will answer them in heaven. I will forgive them and make their land fertile once again. Here at Cities 92.9, the news and talk of Bloomington Normal.